So I literally just came back from the cinema and I was thinking about doing another review to another movie I've just watched. But somehow everything I've just watched was just somehow forgotten about, and I don't know what it is because genuinely I felt what I saw was one of the weirdest movies I've seen. And I don't know if you would have heard of this movie, but it's called Asteroid City. And it's very strange because this was a movie that has so many A-list stars, actors, and actresses that it must have been something that must have been like a good production value film to watch. Now, I think there is elements of good things I could say, but I have to say what I've seen was one of the weirdest stories I have seen from a film in a long, long while, and I don't really know how to describe it. So I watched this movie with my mates as well as talking about it with other people, audience in the crowd, and man, everyone just had such a weird perception of how they viewed Asteroid City. And I think it's kind of reflected when you look at the reviews because when you see the reviews, it's all over the place. There's many bad reviews, there's lots of good reviews, and you really can't seem to make sense of how you can view this film, which is very strange. Usually, when I see films, there's usually, I wouldn't say a real consensus of how a movie is viewed and rated. I always believe there's always going to be differences of how people view this movie. But this movie really left such a weird reaction, and I don't really think there's any middle ground of how you can rate Asteroid City. Now, I really do think it's very hard to describe this film. So, even I'm still reading the plot for this movie, and I still can't even make sense of it. So, I'm going to kind of really give you my best shot of what I do know. So, really, this movie is kind of set out as a theme of being a television show. So, you have a host that introduces the audience to Asteroid City. And what Asteroid City is that it's basically a sort of a convention area where basically an asteroid hit the city, and it's kind of set out as this being under quarantine and everything. And basically, the asteroids touch down the city. They basically sort of try and see what happens out of it, and they have an alien that comes and takes an asteroid. Very weirdly, I don't know what the reason behind it was, and you're kind of introduced to many characters and many A-list stars in this film, and I think really the acting presence was really interesting, and they actually really did have something that connected the audience. I mean, a lot of the audience in this film laughed at this film, which was trying to pose itself as a comedy, and I think it did work pretty well. Now, I can't really say for a lot of things with many modern movies now, especially this year, the comedy has worked, but this one actually did work pretty well. I do think the film lacks moments, but I really think the acting does try and have something that really kind of connects the audience in some ways, trying to relate to each other and trying to sort of create some moments that you wouldn't really think is spectacular, but it does kind of have something that the audience can laugh with, and it has some artistic design that really works pretty well. And I have to say, the visuals in this film actually worked really well. I think the cinematography, the design was really good for such a low budget film. And I don't think this really was a big budget movie. I mean, I could kind of see what it looks like. Yeah, it was a very low budget, around $25 million. So, very low budget film. If it was really the best way I could really describe Asteroid City, it was kind of like my same response that I felt when I watched Nope, like last year. That was a very complex film. And I think this one kind of hit a new level of complexity. And you probably would be sitting around watching this movie a lot, probably with a highly well intellect, and they would still not understand this film. But anyways, that's kind of it for this movie. It was supposed to be a review, but I genuinely had to put this down as probably this is one of the weirdest films I have watched, and I still to this day would not understand it. But I'm sure many of the actors who took part of this film, who read the script, would have had a better understanding than I would, but I certainly don't know. And yeah, that's about it. See you later.